so how do we want to start this conversation?
Do you want to? I don't know if you have a presentation you want to give a short one first, and then we can jump into a free for all where we champion for our favorite product.
Let's go, and I'm gonna share my screen so then you can see my presentation. I hope you can see it. Just let me know. And
gotcha.
Perfect. All right. I'm gonna go into present mode. We're supposed to be somewhere here. Okay. All right. So what we're going to talk today is about the future of data visualizations. And the agenda is to just go through the initial roadmap. This is just the beginning of what we want to do. There is a lot of things that we are planning to do in the next years, but at least I want to cover what we're going to do these 6 months. And then we're going to go through the visual improvements and customer wish list, or what we call quick wins. And then we're going to talk about the design framework that we're following and the collaborative strategy that we are putting in place for first time in the product management that my managers allowed me to implement. And then we're going to talk about the target users and what is my vision or our vision to really improve the data visualizations from now on. We have two branches in the whole strategy, two areas that we want to do in parallel, and that is the customer wish list or quick wins. And these are items that usually are really important, that have been requested for a long time, and engineers think and believe with a lot of they are really confident that this is something we can do in a really short term. And these pieces or these items, features are aligned with what we want to do in the long term. So it's just a matter of making things a little bit earlier than expected, only because it's quite easy to implement. The other side, we have visual improvements in data visualizations. And these are huge, huge, huge items, and they require an intensive research, study every single angle, so then we can make sure that it can scale, that is flexible, and that as well looks appealing and is powerful enough to accommodate every business scenario, or at least the big majority. The ones that we have for this semester planned is working on conditional formatting settings, edit interactions, improving that edit interaction experience that we have, allow some slicer default values to be implemented as default, or maybe you can use a measure and set up that measure as a default. And we want to start making improvements in the tooltips. In the other side, in the visual improvements, our plan is to start with the foundation of all visualizations, and that is the container. The container, for those that maybe don't recognize that term, is exactly that white box that contains all the information. You can see the formatting options of the container always when you go into the general formatting option, and you're going to see title, you're going to see background. So those are container settings. Every item in Power BI contains a container, which is like if you insert a button, a shape, a text box, any visualization, slicer, everything has a container. So we wanted to start from there. And then we're jumping into one of the most used visualizations in Power BI, and that is the card visual. So we're going to give you a powerful card that you can really take it to the next level. And it's going to help you to improve so many things, including performance. We want to improve states in Power BI. States are interactive statements or styles that happens when you interact with the data. That means if you hover a button, it should change color. If you hover a slicer or select a option in a slicer, it should change it. It should show you that you have applied something. And we are missing states in multiple areas. So we want to start implementing and improving states and do things like other tools are doing. For example, Tableau, when you hover a chart, that chart gets highlighted because you're hovering. And when you select it, It changes the color as well, and it is really clear and easy to distinguish when you are interacting with the visualization, because they manage the states really well. So we're gonna do the same. We're going to cover states everywhere, and we're gonna start doing this in the new car visual and slicers. And then we're gonna do an extensive work on labels. And this part, I want to show you the type of work that I do with Jeff and other community representatives, so you can see in firsthand how we're working together, how you can actually be part of this huge transformation and collaborate with us. And labels is going to be that part that I am really pleased to show you today. Any questions about our roadmap?
We're just looking at the next 6 months here, but obviously there's a much larger one that goes much further out.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started, right, Miguel?
Yes, this is just the beginning, and this is going to set up the foundation for what is coming, and you'll see what I mean. All right, let's continue. Let's talk about the visual improvements for the container. One thing that we want to start is to give you the option to have a subtitle. The subtitle is a new element in the header of the visualization that you can use to add more context. We didn't have that. So now you're going to have that area to bring anything that you think is important to label in the visual. We're going to have a divider, something that like a line that crosses in the header section. So then it is a clear, you can have a clear separation between header and body of the visual. You can turn on and off this line. Is just for you to have an extra element to make it more professional. And then we want to add padding. The padding was something that I always struggled when I was designing reports, because in theory, when you want to apply best practices in design inside of data visualization, you always have to have a good use of negative space. You need to give a good space between elements and inside and outside of the containers that you are managing in your page. And the only way that I was able to do that type of or apply that principle was using other shapes behind my visual, so then I can create the illusion that it was one single visualization, when in reality they were two elements. That was one trick. The other one that I had to use was to create a background in Figma, PowerPoint, or Illustrator, export that image, and then import it in Power BI in the background. So then I could get that effect of padding around my visualizations and make it look more professional. So that's going to be something from the past, because you're going to have a padding that you can control. You can set up how many pixels you want around it, and it's going to make as well those visualizations look more appealing. And it will, and because we won't need to use more elements or more containers in the same page, it will improve performance. The visual container will go more than that. This is just what we called in Microsoft milestones, and this is the milestone 0. Then we're going to go into milestone 1, and what we want there is to allow you have control on the options that you want the consumers to manipulate. For example, if you want somebody to use the drill mode, the only way that they can realize that it exists is by hovering the visual. And if they are lucky enough to see that there is a square in the top right, they might use drill mode, or they might use drill through, or whatever functionality that visualization allows you to apply. So one of the things that we want to do in the next milestones is to expose those icons, and then you have more control on, all right, I want somebody to see that they can use personalize in this visualization, they can use drill through, and they can use drill mode. And I want to expose those 3 buttons in the header. Things like that is going to make the container more and more attractive and more useful, working together with the visualization itself that is going to be part of its body. The one that I'm really excited about it, because this is going to open a huge amount of possibilities around other visualizations, is the car visual. The new car visual is a single visualization, single container, as you can see in this image. It is one container that carry inside multiple cards. Imagine we have something very similar right now, which is the navigation buttons. And the navigation button, in the past, we used to use a lot of buttons to create a navigation of a set of buttons. But then we came up, or engineers designed what they call the tile library, and that allows them to multiply the buttons inside a container. And we're using the same technology that we have for navigator buttons in order to create this new card. So now you can split the cards into multiple KPIs, and they can be tied to very specific measures or fields. So you can do a ton of things here. We're going to allow you to have certain layouts if you want the KPIs being sorted or organized, aligned vertically or horizontally, or maybe you want a grid of 2 columns and 3 rows of KPIs. Everything is going to be just easy for you to just adjust them. Instead of doing these things manually one by one, you can have everything inside of the container. You can set up the space between them. You can add shadows. You're going to have a lot of controls on the shapes that you have never seen, even in the buttons. This is going to be a really new way that we want to give freedom. I will give you an example. So right now, if you want to border or make the corners rounded, you have to go select rounded corners, and then when you increase the pixels, it will round every single corner of that shape. So one change that we want to do is we want to give you the freedom of choosing exactly what corner you want to be rounded. That means that you can create shapes like maybe a shape where just the top are rounded and the ones in the bottom are squared, or the bottom left rounded and the top right rounded, but the top left and bottom right squared. And the shapes are going to be up to you. You're going to have full control. And we're going to add more than just rounded. We want as well snipped. Maybe you want a very unique shape, and you're going to have full control of what exactly is the type of shape that you're looking for.
That's awesome, Miguel. Will this be like floating? Like, for instance, if you drag the handlebar, will it change the number of columns and rows displayed, or is it likely to be we're likely to have to do the same thing with small multiples where we have to say we want this many rows and this many columns, or is it still to be determined?
Yeah, it's going to be just like a small multiples. In small multiples, we can decide how many columns and how many rows. We're going to have the same here. It's the same options. One thing so important for me to tell you, because we have set up a good milestones for card, is that we want, after we do this work that is going to allow you to have multiple cards inside a container, we want to implement small multiples. So now you should be able to split those cards into different dimensions. Imagine that we have 2 regions or 3 regions, and we have 3 KPIs. By using small multiples, you can have 9 KPIs, 3 per each region. Later on, we want to take it further, and we want to allow you to add indicators and then trends and so on. At some point, our goal is to depreciate the card visual, the multi-row card, the KPI card, and even have another options for you to manage gauges. And the gauge that we want to propose in the card is to have a horizontal gauge where you can set up the target, and you can even add more indicators below the target. And this card will be the only one that you can use. And the card, the multi-row card, and the KPI will be just something from in the past. It won't exist anymore in the formatting pane. It's not going to make your reports crash. You're going to be able to continue opening and modifying the visualizations that you use from previous versions, but the card is going to be way superior, that you are not going to want to use the previous cards anymore.
I take it that behind the scenes, your team works quite well with Phil's team and other teams around things like, well, how do we get DAX Fusion to work here so that we're recycling DAX queries from this potentially multi-query generating object?
Yeah. All these items are going to be dynamic. You can use field parameters. Like the card is going to allow you to do cool stuff. Something else we want to do with the cards that people are asking a lot is that we want to allow you to trigger actions. Imagine that these 3 cards, one is for human resources, the one in the middle is all about marketing, some kind of KPI for marketing, and then the last card is going to be something about sales. So maybe you want to, when your user clicks on the human resources, they want to go to another page about human resources and trigger a bookmark, or when somebody clicks on the marketing card, you want them to open a website with the campaign that you're launching or something like that. So we were going to allow you to have all those actions that you usually find in buttons, but you can link them in the card visuals. And we want to do the same thing with tooltips. So you can specify to have a certain tooltip for one card and another tooltip for the other cards. You're going to have full control all in one container. As I said, the states is something important for interactivity, and right now the slicer is the one that needs a lot of love around states, and we know that because if you select the slicer and make it horizontal layout, it's going to give you this experience where you have no control on what is selected, the color that is on hover, nothing at all. It's just what it is. And now you're going to have access to those controls. You're going to be able to modify those states, and not only for the horizontal slicer, but as well for the list slicer and the other slicers that we have. You're going to now experience what is to set up that set or specify settings or customize your visualization or slicers, in this case, with states. And then later on, once we support bookmarks in the card visual that I showed you in the previous page, you're going to be able to do the same, to trigger or to specify states for each of those individual cards. And little by little, we're going to jump into another section of the data visualization, so then states can be implemented and can be found everywhere.
Wait a minute. Did you just say that I will be able to trigger a bookmark from a slicer?
No. The states are going to be able to be implemented in slicers. Once we allow the card to use bookmarks, we're going to take the same approach that we are doing for slicer, and we will apply those principles in the card visual. So then if you use a bookmark for a card, somebody when clicks or hovers on that card, they can see a change. Make it more appealing for somebody to use a action.
So Miguel, just Phil here. Got a couple of questions. We've got Kim Priest in the chat asking, when will we see the first significant improvement released? And I think David's got his hand up. So like I know you've got a lot of work here, and it's possibly going to be drip fed out over a period. When are you hoping to see the first big bang block of all this wonderful work?
In March.
March
okay. Is the month where you're going to start seeing those features being launched for the public. Something that I have to tell you is that because we are taking this progress very seriously, and Jeff can tell you that because I am like, I go through every single detail in whatever decisions we take, and if we take a decision around whatever property or behavior, I make sure that works well with everything else that is connected. So that means that the features will take a little bit longer than usually from other product managers, and the reason is because we are doing it in a strategic manner that won't result in something like crashing or maybe not working as expected, and then have inconsistency across all visualizations because we never thought about it. That has been changed.
Yeah, there's so much to think about, including making sure old reports still work and people are happy with things like that. David, you've got your hand up. Do you want to come off mute?
I'm maybe jumping the slicer gun a bit here, but so I've had a couple of reports with slicers in them, chosen a nice coloured background, set the text to white, so it looks pleasant to the eye, etc. But then I've found that when I've added the search bar to the top of the slicer, I'm keying white text, and I don't believe there is a way to change the color of the text that is typed.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, I mean, that's a specific bug, if you want to call it that. But is there like color improvements and or I guess colors for sight impaired, all that sort of stuff as well that come to mind when you're thinking about improvements for the slicer?
Yeah, the idea is whatever you see, you should be able to modify. An example with the slicer, in that search box, we see a icon like this. It's an icon for search. That icon that we have inside of the search box, it's impossible to modify the color. It's already given. You're gonna be able to modify that. You're gonna be able to modify the squares in a list slicer, and even change the thickness of the square outline. All that you should be able to modify it, and we will support themes to create a code if you want to take that personalization further.
And if it doesn't work, we can just hit Jeff up for a fix.
Yeah. Other improvements that we're going to do for slicers later on is to allow you to overwrite or force selection. Right now, what happens is you have two slicers, and if you select one thing in one slicer and the other one doesn't contain that field, and then you change, like they have conflict with each other. We're going to change that as well. There are so many changes that we want to do for slicers, but with the labels that we're doing is going to set up a foundation of the work that we want to do for slicers later on. So everything is connected, and I'll show you that at the end of the presentation. Any other question?
Yeah, just one very broad one from Jeff Morton. Is there any work being done to reduce the click tax? So perhaps the amount of times you have to click your mouse to set formatting up.
Oh, yeah, there is a work called an object. An object is a project where it will allow you to set up formatting settings right in the spot of the visualization. So if you want to change the axis, you just click on the axis, and beside your mouse, it will show up a settings like in Office. And if you click on the grid lines, it will show you very specific options for grid lines. But if you want more advanced options in the formatting pane, it will already filter everything, and it will show you only the options for grid lines. So things like that is going to allow you to make adjustments quicker, faster, and so much easier.
Sounds good. But we'll let you carry on with your presentation.
The same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And an object is not my role. That belongs to another PM. But we work together in order to communicate the type of improvements that we want to do for visualizations. My job is to make sure that the experience that you're going to have is going to be so much easier, faster, and comfortable. And then the other PM will take that information or the way that I'm approaching it. So then she can implement it for an object, and she can make sure that the formatting pane contains the parameters in the right order and labeled in the right way. So we are working together to make that experience so much easier for you. And labels. Here it sounds pretty simple. Like, well, we're just going to upgrade labels. And when I'm talking about labels, I'm talking about data labels, total labels, serials labels, categorical labels, detail labels, target labels, and any other labels that will come up with the new card. We want you to have much flexibility as report creator, but as well as report consumer. And labels, I believe, is one of the elements in data visualizations that give a lot of context and give a lot of guidance when somebody is reading the information. And we believe labels are going to impact or 84% of all visualizations. If we make improvements seriously in this area, you're going to see huge improvements across the whole tool in this space. And this is the part that I'm going to show you today, but with more detail. For the customer wish list, we're doing some conditional formatting settings, and we're starting with the measure-driven data labels. What is this? Well, sometimes maybe you don't want to see the label that automatically Power BI gives you when you use a column chart. So if I have months by sales, by default, Power BI will give you the sales amount on top of each of these columns. You might decide that you don't want to see the sales amount. You want to see a single icon that represents increase from the previous month. So you should create a measure that does that and then link that measure into the labels. So what it's going to do is going to remove the default labels and it will replace it with your measure. And you can do many stuff with this. You can say that you want to see running totals, or you can say that you want comparisons, so or maybe you want the text. Like your imagination is just going to be the limit of this feature. But that's something easy that we want to do. I already saw some progress today about it, so we believe this is going to be one of the things that you're going to see in March as well. I hope everything goes as smooth as it seems like, and you're going to have control over those labels by using conditional formatting. There is an extensive work around this because whatever we do in the formatting pane and the ability for you to use conditional formatting with labels, we will apply that everywhere. And imagine that you're going to be able to as well set up the decimal values dynamically according to a measure. If you want to see values being thousands, millions, or normal values, you should be able to as well specify when to be KM, Ts, and if they are millions, and maybe you want to see 2 decimals for millions and 1 decimal for thousands, you're going to be able to apply conditional formatting and specify even that. So whatever we do with this feature, you'll see similar approaches everywhere, not just on the data labels. Edit interactions is a pain in the neck, especially when people are trying to use so many elements. Like I said, I do create shapes in the background and then a visual on top to create a nice looking report. But then when it's time for me to cancel interactions, so then my report runs faster, it's almost impossible. I need to hide some visualizations, go and cancel another ones, and go back and forth in order to cancel everything or filter everything correctly, and it's just difficult. We want to give you a panel where you can control all of them, you can group them, one single click can manage everything. We want to take that approach further and even show you the type of visuals that are affected by certain bookmarks. It's going to be a cool way to manage interactivity, and if we want to really take interactivity to the next level, we need to start with the foundation, and that's the panel that will allow you to set up those interactions. And the slicer default value, you're gonna, again, using conditional formatting, you're gonna be able to say to slicer, I'll give you an example, like maybe we are in February, like we're gonna be in February soon. So maybe you want the slicers to always select the latest month. And once the whole month ends, we're gonna enter into March. And right now what happens is you select February, and when we are in March, February will be continuous selected. Somebody needs to go select March and then update the report to always select the latest month. That's not going to happen anymore. You're going to be able to set up a measure to auto select whatever you need. It can be one selection, it can be multiple selections, but everything can be based on a measure. And tooltips, what happens right now with tooltips is in the example I have here, we imagine that the primary axis, the x-axis has months, and the secondary axis, the y-axis, is about sales. Right now, what happens is if you use a tooltip, it will show you the total sales, and then below it will show you the month. Maybe you don't want the month to be displayed, and there is no way that you can control what is displayed and what is not on the default settings. What you can do is you can add more content to increase the amount of information that visualization or that tooltip contains. But you cannot remove what Power BI takes by default. So now you're going to be able to say what you don't want and what you want, and you're going to be able to take it further and modify the look and feel of what is inside of that container. So maybe you want the first indicator to be green and the rest to be black or gray. And that's something else that we're going to give you the flexibility to do. So far, any questions about the new features that are coming for this semester? Design framework. Why is now different than in the past? Like we have lost a lot of hope of Power BI improvement. Sometimes we get what we were asking for so long, and then when we receive that feature, is lacking of many other options that were important as well. So why is now going to be different? How should I believe that? The difference is about how we're going to design every feature, and that is regarding psychology. So we're going to make sure that human cognition plays a role in everything that we're going to give you. We want to give you the best defaults. We want you, this is my main task. We want you to create a table or a slicer or a line chart, and that visualization should be so good delivering the data that you want to display, that if you want to change the color, the thickness, whatever you do, you're going to think twice, because it's going to look professional out of the box. It's going to look clean. It's going to look just precise. If you want to take it further and customize it, you have to be careful, because you can make the visualization not following those principles. And those principles are about how our brain is wired. We're going to use psychology principles to make sure that the information is delivered really quickly and really precise. Some of those principles can be similarity, continuity, proximity, figure and ground. So it's easy to know what is in the back and what is in front, what is important and what is not, and other important laws. We're going to launch some surveys that are going to look tricky for you to answer, but behind there is some principles that we want to like get out of you, so then we can see how good we are doing in psychology, or how the visualization can convey information for our audience. The other part is human perception. We want you to feel comfortable using the visualizations, creating those visualizations. We want to work on the emotions that they will that they will allow you to have. And some of those principles that we will apply is to make sure that there is balance, consistency in the experience, variety on the scenarios that you need to do, and neutral at the beginning. So then you have a perfect canvas where you can expand and transform. And then accessibility, we want to make sure that the information is really easy to understand and read. We want to make sure that it is like good practices on contrast, color management, navigation, visibility, findability, and user experience as general. And one thing that we want to do here is, for example, we want to allow you to create multiple themes. That, imagine, one can be for accessibility, for high contrast, another one can be for colorblind, and another one can be normal theme. And usually right now, what happens is the author that can select one single theme, and that's what the final consumer is going to receive. We're going to allow the consumer to select the theme that they need, and we're going to allow the report creator to set up the themes that that report creator wants the consumer to see when they open up the theme box. So now users with different needs and with different powers will be able to access to the perfect settings for their needs. So that and many other areas in the data visualization is what we're going to do to improve accessibility. How are we going to do this? Well, it's a lot of work from design. They understand principles that as Microsoft we need to follow. Engineer understand the code and the infrastructure that we need, and the community understand the business cases and the scenarios that they need to use in order to be successful in the job that they do every day. By combining these three areas, me as PM, as product manager, my only job here is to make sure that they can collaborate. I will be between them to make sure that all information in these three teams flow nicely, and every single side understand the compromises that it might affect certain decision. So sometimes design will say, well, I think this is the right approach, but engineer and community will disagree and will say why, and design will have to compromise a little bit and allow this to happen. And it's me, the one that is going to be always in the middle, making sure that those compromises are in place. And we hear each of these teams in a way that can nicely create features that can scale, and it can be really nice for all of you. That's something else as well that is going to be different from the past. Right now,
yeah, Miguel, would you mind going back that one slide for a second?
Yeah, of course.
And just talking about that community one of the problems we've had in the past as a community is that we would ask things on ideas, and we wouldn't hear from engineering or design about them. And there may have been really, really good rationale or reasons why things have been on the ideas site for many, many years. To the community, we would go, well, this is a no-brainer. But that lack of communication probably was the thing that the community suffered the most. So I'm hoping, and I've already seen this in the new approach from Microsoft, that we will be able to find out not just when you're doing things that we asked for, but also a little bit more communication around, why some of the other stuff hasn't been done. Maybe it's because of dependencies, or even just a yes, it's on our radar. We know this is the problem. We hear you.
Yeah, in the past, what happens is exactly that. They used to develop things based on feedback from the community. They used to work with design engineer to make sure that everything can be just shipped in time. And then when everything was developed, community used to review that work and sometimes be happy, sometimes disappointed, but there is no turning back. Like it is what it is, and we'll tell you if we have plans in the future to improve it or to add X or Y feature that we missed. That's what is not happening now. What happens is the community is in the whole, like they take part of the entire process. The community representatives are there before I put together the document that sets up the rules for the new feature. They are there when it's time for the design to come up with the mockups. So then they can see that those mockups meet the requirements that we were after. And then when engineer code the feature, they're going to give the community representatives a tool that they can test that feature even before gets launched anywhere else. So they will have like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to test everything and try it out. And if something is missing, the engineer will go back and will implement those changes. So then when it reaches the whole audience, when it reaches the product, you're going to see a more mature tool that went already through so many eyes. That's
fantastic because there's 23 people in that community. So sorry, it's 23. There's 13 people in that in that community representative group, which means you've got 26 eyes and at least 13 mouths. I like to joke, none of which you have to feed. It's fantastic, but it means that there's just another dimension. There's some more diversity that just may help you pick up something that you didn't see before. I mean, it's awesome to be inside the tent with this kind of stuff. It's worth pointing out that Microsoft have given me and my peers that are on the feedback group unprecedented access to some of the early stages of these proposals and other things that we're not even talking about today. And it's amazing to be part of it. I really salute Microsoft for having the faith in you to let us in. So well done. Well done to you and your boss.
Yeah, for sure. Well, everybody is part of the team. How can you help your community representative? Well, sometimes they're going to share some ideas in their social media channels or their websites, and they are going to ask for your opinion. And that's because they might need extra support from what they believe is the right thing. And when you see those comments, those post surveys or whatever they come up with, it's important for you to be vocal and share your own perspective, because we have a system in the work that we do that it really matters what these representatives say. It can change the whole game. And I'm giving them the power that the PM used to have. I don't have it anymore. My role is to make sure, like I said, that everything communicates. But it's the community, the one that is setting up the rules and saying exactly what is the best way to approach it. So make sure that you communicate with them. I apologize that we have only 13 people. And the reason of that is because this is a trial where we want to see how that goes. And I am new in this area. So that means I'm trying to understand how I need to upgrade all the documentation that hasn't been upgraded for a long time. I need to go and check some books that are being around the tool as well for so long, and many other tasks as PM. And having control over 30 people, it will be just a disaster. So I wanted to start small with people that I am really aware of how they understand the tool. And then later on from here, we will expand and we will give more seats into the group to have a variety of people with different backgrounds to look at the evolution of data visualizations. Now let's see in action what happens in the whole process. I'm going to take the labels as an example, and I'm going to show you how we plan stuff, going with the card first, and then we're going to go into the labels. So here is the things that we do. So the card visual, we set up the milestones. In the milestone 0, we want to allow you to have one container that carries all cards. And we want to allow you to have a tooltip in this experience. Then in milestone 1, you're going to be able to split those ones with small multiples. Milestone 3, you're going to be able to use indicators below each of these callouts. But notice that you can have more than one. You can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and not all of them should be the same. Maybe you want one of your callouts or your cards to have a single indicator, and they don't need to be always the same. Like this is target and the one is going to be target. No, you're going to have full customization of what indicators headcount will have and what indicators the cost per new hire will have. And that's something else that we're going to do in the milestone 2. Then milestone 3, we're going to allow you to have charts inside of the card visual. Now, the KPI card is going to be obsolete, and you're going to have more controls over the trends. You might want to change this for a line chart, for a column chart, or even a gauge, as I said. You can have one target or multiple targets in the horizontal gauge. That's something else that the current gauge is not doing, but you're going to be able to do it in this card. It's so important, please, that everything you see that I'm showing you is not a final design. The design team needs to design the ultimate design or approach, and they have the last word on how things look. But I'm going to do my best to always influence and have it really nice and clean look and feel. At least this is going to give you an idea of the features that we want to do and how we are planning to do this in the long term. We are not doing what in the past we used to do, just look one feature at the time, and then later on think what's going to be the feature. So we already know the steps that we want to take in order to give you the best visualization ever. Now, for the labels, the task that the community representatives had was to give me a list of items that they think are super important to give me. And I'm sorry, this is in Spanish, but everything that they sent me, I organized it, I put it in a list. And then what I did is to set up the scenarios. So then I can validate these scenarios with them to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything that they want. So for example, the labels, here's one that they gave me. They said that sometimes right now, when we have 4 lines, the serial labels hide some of those and just prioritize the one that is the highest, I believe, and it will remove the other ones. We want to improve that experience and have a way to show them all. We want to have serial labels for column charts or ribbons. So now instead of you having a legend, you might want to use a column chart with the serial labels and see the name of the color beside it. We want the serial labels to end exactly where the line ends. Right now, what happens is if it ends before the last point, it won't be displayed. Only the ones that reach the last point, it will be displayed as serial labels. So we're going to improve that. Have control over the formatting settings. Maybe you want the box there to have a shadow, to change the border to be rounded, like have more and more controls. For certain visualizations, like if you have a numerical axis, what happens right now is automatically Power BI in certain way, a logic that I am not even aware which is, it shows and hides certain labels. We want to allow you to turn off that automatic setting and display them all. Sometimes we want to have the label, but the problem is this area is so small that if it doesn't meet the width of the area, it disappears. So then you end up with some visualizations with labels and other ones without labels. And we want to have a setting that forces them to be always exposed. We want to allow you halo around the visual. So then the labels, if you have a dark color, it can be displayed. But if you have a really light color, like gray, it can still be shown. We want to allow the visual in certain way to give you the best contrast levels according to the color of the visual. And we want the, I believe this one is up. When you hover, imagine that you want to display the labels, but only when you hover them. So when you hover the plot, the label will be displayed. And this is to adjust how wide you want the label to be. If you want it to be in the right, in the left, in the bottom, or like offset of the data point. Maybe you want this one to be always in the right side or in the bottom, and we will allow you to move it offset of this position.
Maybe you may answer this, but do you want us to be able to set the label to a smaller font size than 8 point?
Yeah,
I'm going to put you on the spot here, buddy.
Yes, you're gonna be able to go into those small sizes, and there is another one I had here, maybe not, but I don't think I have it in here, but let me see. Something else that we want to do is auto size for labels. And that is when we have a column chart, let's see, where is it? It should be here, right here. So if we have different sizes in the bubbles. Some labels automatically will be big, and other ones will be small according to the size of the bubble. So we want as well automatic sizing to make sure that we emphasize what it really have a lot of importance in the data. And so on. So all the options that what I want to show you here is every single option that they are listing. Like this is another one, allowing you to have the. I think this was not designed correctly, but the idea here is showing the all these serial labels here in a tabular manner are next to the column. Let me see if I have. I think I have an example that you can see. As you can see, I do a lot of research here. Right here. So this is what I mean. So you can see that every single color is down here. So if you have a very busy visualization and you need to display no matter what the labels, in order to avoid this area to be messy with labels, you're going to have an area down here that will align with the plot, and it will list every single item that is part of the chart. So things like this is what we want to include in the labels transformation, along with many other settings, changing the angle and many cool stuff. But you can see everything that the community representatives, is my job to create the scenario, and then we're gonna create a plan to set up what's gonna be our milestone 0, what's gonna be our milestone 1, 2, 3, and so on. But before even setting up that map, we need to know all the items that are gonna be part of the whole transformation. This is not just small settings that I'm talking about. I'm talking about huge ones as well, like this one. We want easy setups. Maybe you want to have only display the last data point. So I was exploring, all right, so maybe having a data range where people can say, I want to see the first, the last, before certain data point, etc. And maybe you want the last two, the first 7. So even it's not going to be only one, it can be a set of data points at the very end, or the beginning, or before or after. But that's going to add another area where maybe you want to see everything above certain amount of cells or between certain amount of cells, the maximum, the minimum. Here you can see the maximum, the minimum, and all of that is adding more options. So then we're taking this approach to the next level, and it's all right, how can we deliver one option where you can have a window, have all those single date, range of dates, the relative, and it's going to be not only up to the creator of the report, but even the consumer can open up this window and can say, you know what, I want to see all labels. I want to see only one single label, or maybe the last week or the last month. And they should be able as well to turn on and off labels as they please. If they export this into PowerPoint or any other application, they should be able to modify it easily without asking the report or author to do it for them. What happens when consumers don't have that amount of control, they usually go export the data, put in Excel, and then make the visual that they need for the presentation. But if we give them the tools that we are giving to report authors or creators, then consumers are going to service themselves, and the report creator, their only job is to make sure that everything is organized and in providing the right tools to the consumers to make those modifications. So now they're going to be able to set up if they want to see the last 7 days or this range of data in their line chart. And then here, they're going to be able to say, I want to see the maximum, the last 2 maximums or the 3 minimums in that period of time in my visualization. So instead, seeing a very busy visualization with tons of labels that maybe are not that important to be displayed, consumers and authors will be able to just display the one that really matter to provide a story or to give some context of what's going on in that visualization. So now having data labels is going to be more pleasant. It's going to be now attractive to use, and it's not going to happen what happens to me. Honestly, when I use the data labels, by default go and I turn them off. I don't like how they look, especially for a lot of data. But that's going to be something in the past. We're going to be able to control them and make sure that we can even create storytelling with them. So that's what I want to show you. You can see everything that the community is giving me, the representatives. I'm taking this seriously, reviewing every single aspect, how this is going to live in the formatting pane. If it's not in the formatting pane, is this going to be in another window? If this is going to be part of the conditional formatting experience, maybe we're going to transform it. Like, it's way more than just give me better labels. And that's basically my presentation. I took an hour, I'm sorry.
Fantastic, Miguel. It's worth pointing out that, as Miguel's already said, everything we're looking at here is just mock-ups. Miguel's been involving the community reps heavily in how things should look, what they may have missed, what some of the trade-offs in terms of user interface, user experience options are for implementing some of this stuff. There was some good discussion today on just this, and what might be some of the trade-offs as to attacking some of the quick win quality of life improvements versus the massive big ones we're thinking of. And it's really, really cool to be able to have I guess a stronger user voice, community user voice, a seat at the table to discuss some of these things, because it's really, really easy for us community to mouth off behind the scenes to say Microsoft, they're never implementing whatever the hell we want. But as soon as you put us in the seat, we go, oh, wait a minute, I want everything. I don't want to have to choose everything. So it's incredible to be in there and not only to help shape the process, but to get an understanding of the constraints that you face. I mean, the reality is that the visualization budget at Microsoft for engineers has increased. I think I saw Mo or someone talk about a doubling on Twitter a long time ago, but that still doesn't get you very far. You have to be very, very disciplined to make sure that you're going to get value for money. And what I'm seeing is a larger focus on the things that are killing us, not just from a visualization perspective, but from a UX, UI perspective, so that you don't have highly paid report developers getting occupational overuse syndrome from clicking all the time.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions that we've missed out? I've got a question before we ask other questions. I've got a question that I forgot to ask until now. I really love the look of having a subtitle on those visuals. Would you be able to let creators have line breaks in those subtitles? Would you be able to populate that? Would that require them to populate it by DAX, or is a line breaks a step too far at this particular moment?
At this moment, the subtitle is going to be able to do the same thing as title. So you're going to be able to tie that with DAX or just type what you need. We're thinking maybe to use this area to auto-populate it based on whatever other parameters you apply in the visualization, but we are not certain that that's the best course of action. We have some improvements for the container that might solve those issues. So we want to keep it right now just simple, and then from there expand.
Scrolling the comments, anybody see any questions? That we've got a lot of love in the comments, Miguel, I can tell you that. No hate, zero hate. How does all this work with your third-party visual partners out there? So is third-party custom visuals and the API part of your remit as well, or is that another team?
Yeah, I work with Maya, who is the PM that owns everything about custom visuals, and she works with the partners really close. She's in Israel, and we work close on how can we put together a strategy that every time when we do these improvements in the visualizations, we share the code and we let all custom visuals partners to implement their visualization, so then we can support all these amazing capabilities in their visualizations as well. But the problem is we cannot enforce that. They have they can deny it and then keep their visualizations as it is. So there is no guarantee from our side that all custom visuals will be aligned with the high quality that we want to transform the visualizations. What I can tell you is that we want to transform the visualizations in a certain level that custom visuals are going to have hard time to keep up. So we're going to let you use more out-of-the-box visualization than custom visuals. I don't think that we're going to be able to match the Daniel's what's the name? David? Yeah, it's going to take us a while, but we want to in the future go there and really provide you high customabilities in the formatting options for you to have less desire to go in the custom visual. That's going to open a huge opportunity for serious data visualization custom developers to give you further visualizations that we haven't seen, because now the out-of-the-box visuals will have enough properties to supply those demands.
Let me play bad cop for a second, because that's part of my role as a community rep and put you on the spot here. So you mentioned that you would love it if custom visual makers struggle to keep up with some of the innovation coming out of Microsoft. Of course, they will struggle if you don't allow them access to some of these parameters via the APIs that you allow. And a classic example, and I know it's not your area, but a classic example is what I wouldn't give to have the old conditional formatting options in some of the particular, I think it's the Matrix CV or something or other, some of the custom visuals that are based on that. So I do hope that you allow them to be as innovative.
No, we want to share everything. Yeah, that's part of our strategy. Everything is going to be shared, and we're not going to keep anything in secret. Like, we implement new tooltips, new interactivity sections, and better interfaces for conditional formatting. Everything is going to be shared.
But are there upgrades to the APIs that let them do their thing?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's the
plan.
See that.
That's the plan. Yeah. You heard it here, folks. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
Here's a question from Patrick. On the standard line chart visual, will we have control of the series to bind to the lines rather than just the columns, or will we have to stick with the nib for control? I'm not 100% sure I understand the question.
Yeah.
Patrick, you may need to come off mute and elaborate on that one. Or I tell you what, the other thing that I could do is I can note these questions down and I can get some answers. And if I'm allowed to, I can tweet the answers or share the answers with the community.
Yeah.
That one's fairly easy if I'm off mute. The line column chart is a standard visual in Power BI. You've got only the ability to bind the series to the column rather than binding the series to the lines, or both, as the case may be. You can do it in Excel with an Excel line column chart, but you can't do it in Power BI with a standard viz.
Series labels for columns, you're saying?
No, not the labels, the pure viz. So if you want the lines to be your legend, right, or your series type, you can't do that with a standard visual, a standard line column visual. You're stuck with being able to put the series or the legend against the columns, not the lines. So it's available in Excel. So I was wondering, are we on the track of giving the user that level of control, or as we do now, just going to Deneb?
No. That's something that we want to do for the legend redesign. We want to give multiple ways for you to manage the legends, and you can place them in multiple areas. So you're going to see that implementation when we reach legends. And just for you, for the awareness of this audience, the roadmap is this: container, card, labels, plots or lines and charts or whatever we use, like the bubbles, the squares, the lines, and then after that legend, and then after legend, axis and primary axis, secondary axis, and then small multiples. So Legend is not far away from us. That's something that we're going to do in the next semester. And you're going to see that type of control once we reach there. However, just to make sure that we don't forget, reach out to your to the community representatives. Make sure that they are aware of these implementations, because they have a section in our team to always keep a list of all those items. So then when it's time for me to put together the strategy, I can grab it and implement it.
On the Data Jazzers podcast, you talked about some simple stuff like the fact that, you know, you were musing aloud, I think, about things like, well, do we even need like a separate table visual versus a matrix visual? And that raises almost another point, like, do we need all these separate little visuals for a column chart, column with line, stack bar, versus the Excel way, which is here's a mix and match visual that where you can do it whatever you want. So if you want to have it, and a classic example is maybe a horizontal column chart with horizontal lines, it may be a very, really good business case to do that. You can't at the moment do that in Power BI, but Excel, you get this incredible flexibility out of that mix and match option. I take it that you're looking at not just these little things we're looking at, but you're looking at that current palette of visualization icons, going, which ones do we need? Which ones can we consolidate if we made smarter choices? This is correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent.
That's right.
Nothing's off the table is what you've really told us, right? Like, you know.
Yeah, nothing. When people are asking me, are you going to do this? The answer is yes. We're going to do everything. We're going to do everything.
Hey, thank you so much, Miguel. I know it's very, very late where you are. And, you know, I know that this is in very good hands with you. I mean, when he was on the same team as me, many people refer to him as Miguel Angelo for the beautiful work that he just consistently improved and did better. And, you know, I've been on many meetings where I know that when Miguel was going to be showing off his latest work, you know, it would just standing ovation type time and time again. So, you know, it is an honor and a privilege to have you here in the user group. And I think the last time we were on the same user group, Miguel, was about 4 years ago. We were probably driving around Warsaw somewhere and presenting together. It was doesn't feel like that long ago, but yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Really, really awesome topic. Awesome stuff to look forward to. And just judging by the comments, everyone's really, really enjoyed this. So yeah. Anything just to finish up with, Jeff?
No, other than thanks for listening, Microsoft. We appreciate it as a community, and we've got a lot to deliver. We're going to be hard taskmasters. Don't burn yourself out, Miguel.
Yeah.